Yes, it is the original car used by Smithy on Gavin and Stacey. Welcome to Lot 76 Cars. My name's Simon and today I'm at the Classic Summer Members Meeting at Brooklands. So hope you enjoy the video of the cars we're about to see and the owner interviews we'll have, and look forward to walking you around the show. So launched I think in '89 was the Mazda MX-5. This is the NA version, the original version, albeit it's a later one, I guess on the cusp of the change to the follow-up car, and it's one of the special edition Monza cars. Next to it we've got a vehicle that's celebrating its 40th birthday, well actually 40 years since its UK launch in October, and that's the Mercedes 190e. And that particular one's from 1990 in Ascot Grey. I know that because it's mine. The 5th generation SL is the 230, and these are spectacularly undervalued at the moment, the R230. Some issues I guess with the 500 engines and above with the ABC suspension, but spectacular value. Next to it we've got the Mercedes CLK, another car that's unfortunately suffered from a poor reputation with rust, but this one's in spectacular condition. And aren't they a pretty car? And probably one of my favourites is the R129 SL Sport Light, as it's always been. Again, this is supposed to be one of Bruno Sacco's favourite designs, and didn't he do a great job with that car? On the turn of the millennium, Ford decided to produce a special edition. Their Millennium Special Editions were all in yellow. There were 1,000 Ford cars, 1,000 Focus and 1,000 Pumas. Now I'm not sure how many of these survive. I know certainly the Pumas are pretty rare, but this distinctive yellow paintwork was one of the features, and also the leather interior. Lovely to see one of those here today. And in fact those Mark I Focuses are really game changers. That control blade rear suspension, differences on the earlier cars versus the later cars. The indicators are still fed into the bumpers, where when the car got a facelift it became part of the headlamp unit. Lovely to see one of these here today. Apparently Chris Harris's of Top Gear fame's favourite car is a 1.6 Z-Tech, and I wouldn't argue with him. So this fabulous 1958 S1 Bentley Continental. I've seen this car here before, but I've never had a chat because this is unusually for me, I've only ever seen these as 2 doors, but this is a 4-door, which is incredibly practical. We're going to try and have a chat with the owner and find out a bit more about this one, because it really is a beautiful looking car, isn't it? So I'm here with John, who's going to tell us about this fabulous 1958 Bentley Continental. I've only ever seen the 2-door versions, but this is a relatively rare-ish 4-door, isn't it?
It's a 4-door version which was introduced in 1957. This one was being built in 1957, first registered in the beginning of January 58. And the idea was to make it more convenient for the passengers in the back, so that they didn't have to tip the seats forward and crawl out. The way that the vehicle was designed was to ensure that the weight was not increased by having 4 doors rather than the 2, and the weights are relatively similar, as demonstrated in an article which I carry around with me.
Oh, fabulous. You've had the car, what, a long time? Or
31 years.
Oh wow, okay. So it was in this condition when you got it, because the car is immaculate.
No, it wasn't in this condition when I got it. From a distance it looked quite attractive, but when you looked at the paint surface close up, it was in a pretty poor state. The top layer in various places had been polished down, and they only ever put a thin coat on the top, so that unfortunately meant that the paint didn't look at all good, and the car went in and had a completely bare metal respray and that led to bodywork and interior all being done the same way. That was during the first year I had it.
Right, it's in absolutely stunning condition. It's a credit.
I enjoy using it when I can. One of the penalties of these cars is that you can't just park in an ordinary car park or a supermarket or anywhere like this. That you have to organise where you're going so that you don't find that the car is in less good condition.
Yes, let's say. No, I understand. We're all protective of our cars. Well, thanks very much for talking to us about it. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very welcome.
So we've got a fabulous Ferrari 328 GTS. What a lovely looking car. Magnum PI, eat your heart out. And next to it, let's have a look at this one. We've got a later Spider. It's a left-hand drive car. I love that offset number plate that many Alphas have. It's in very nice condition. It's the Camtail one, so it's by Camtail. It's actually got that rear end that's cut off like this. I think that might have been designed by Carmen. I'm not sure about that one, but certainly that's the Camtail rather than the so-called boat tail, which is the early cars. Lovely looking car inside. Look how that gear lever is kilted at such a strange angle, isn't it, to the driver. Quite a reasonable amount of room in the cabin, to be fair, for a two-seater. Yeah, that's lovely, isn't it? Beautiful. Now, there was a time when Vauxhalls and Opels were sold side by side by GM in the UK, and one of the Opels that was sold were these Mantas. Now, this is the Berlinetta running on tiny 13-inch wheels. You don't see many of these about, do you? This is a relatively rare car. Got a built-in sunroof, a vinyl roof as well. Spoiler. It's the 1.8S, so it's not necessarily top of the range, but it's absolutely great to see one of these here, isn't it? So this is a fabulous 3-litre Senator CD from 1990. Now, remember these? A lot of these as 24 valves were used as police cars. It's got that fabulous sort of cookie cutter grille. We're going to try and have a chat with the owner, because this is a car that's also been on the Hubnut channel. It's for sale now, so if you want to pause the video, for a very reasonable £2,750, it could also be yours. Stunning leather interior, isn't it? What a lovely car. Let's have a chat with the owner and try and find out more about this particular car, shall we? So I'm in this fabulous Senator with Phil. I was just saying that we don't actually see that many of them about, to say they were built in reasonably big numbers. Many people remember them as police cars, but this is a super one. I think you've even got the Digidash as well, haven't you?
I have got the Digidash.
Oh,
yeah.
We'll try and get a shot of that in, because that's a work of art on its own. Tell us, how long have you had this car, Phil?
Coming up to 2 years now. Okay. So yeah, always loved them from childhood. My dad was actually a motoring journalist, so he would have new cars on test week to week, which was an amazing thing as a child loving cars.
Yeah.
And this is one of those that just stood out from my childhood. The Digidash was the biggest kind of wow thing as a kid. So I always wanted one. So yeah, the opportunity arose one day, and
fabulous.
Literally saw it for sale 9 PM one Saturday night on eBay. Rang the guy that minute and bought it the next morning.
You didn't waste any time, did you? No, you did. I like that.
Yeah, so,
and you weren't drunk at the time when you were buying it on eBay.
Drunk, no,
wow.
Drunk, no.
Well, it was sober as well. That'll be a change. Yeah. And it's got things like, I noticed, air conditioning even, which is quite handy.
Sadly, the air conditioning's been decommissioned at some point in the past.
Never mind.
That would be nice.
You did get my hopes up there for a second.
Yeah, I mean, most stuff works, considering how old it is.
And this is what, 3-litre? Is it 24 valve?
No, this is the 12.
The 12
so, yeah,
valve.
The 24 was the kind of big, obviously Halo model, but
right.
Yeah, this is the slightly older 12 valve. Yeah, but it's a great, it's a great engine. Very, not quite as powerful as the 24 valve, but. Very ultra reliable engine, and it sounds good, and it's got enough go for me.
Yeah,
so.
And what work have you had to do with it to get it to this?
Not a huge amount, actually. I mean, the engine's been absolutely rock solid. Did have some overheating issues at one point, which I eventually tracked down to a broken water pump fan, not fan.
Oh, the
but,
impeller. Is it impeller? I think they call them
impeller,
impellers.
yeah, that's the one, yeah. Which was plastic and literally broken in half when I finally got it apart.
Well,
Took me a while to work out what was causing that, yeah, so did everything else. But had some rust repairs done on it, and these, rust like anything, hence there not being that many left. So it's literally just a few weeks ago, had new rear arches put in, the sills have been patched up, and there was quite an unpleasant hole in the boot sill under the lid where water had collected over many years and eventually rotted through. So that's been sorted now. So,
excellent. It's credit due to. It's lovely to see one, and I go to a lot of shows and I rarely see Senators. Rarely, probably I've seen maybe 3 or 4 over the last couple of years or so. Well, thank you for talking to us. Thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Cheers, thank you.
Pleasure.
So from its original 01 London number, B&H Motors for Opel number plates, this is a fabulous Opel Monza, sold as the Opel Monza and Vauxhall Royale. I think there was probably some crossover there. Eventually just became the Opel Monza when it was later in life. Great to see this here in gold, isn't it? Not sure how well you can see that interior. Fabulous velour interior there. An automatic. Love that, absolutely superb fastback styling. Lovely car, great to see that here today, isn't it? So here's a lovely Mark II Golf. It looks like the 8 valve, it's not the later 16 valve. It's got the steel wheels on, but it looks like those are wider steel wheels, maybe from a VW van of the period or something like that. I'm not quite sure. Nevertheless, really practical 5-door and in beautiful order. So this is a Mark II Toyota Supra. The Mark I wasn't officially sold here, but by the time the Mark II arrived, it arrived on sale in the UK fully loaded with things like air conditioning, but bizarrely without leather being available. From its 2.8 litre engine, it manages to muster 170 horsepower, which back in the day wasn't actually too shoddy, but compare that with power outputs now. But of course cars have increased in weight. Apparently, according to the owner's blurb in the car, there are very small numbers of these available. In fact, he believes there's probably just maybe sort of 37 still on the road in the UK. That's incredible, isn't it? So sold in small numbers, but less than 40 out there. Lovely, lovely. Also from Toyota's back catalogue is another 1985 car. This is a MR2, midship runabout 2. It's a Series 1 car, so it hasn't got the body coloured parts on it. Back in 1985, this would have cost you, because the invoice is on the screen, £9,645. Seems like a bargain now. I'm sure probably it was quite expensive back in the day. Mid-engine car, great handling car. And this one is in fabulous order, and great to see the earlier cars, the Mark Is with those trademark wheels. What a lovely car, isn't it? So this is a fabulous Rolls-Royce 2530, 30 being the fiscal horsepower back in the day, not relating to the real horsepower. It's a 4-litre engine. We're going to have a chat with the owner, who's just very proudly open the bonnet, and we'll try and cut in some videos of that in a second. What a glorious car, isn't it? So Nigel, you've drawn me in with that radiator grille emblem. I'll cut in some pictures of that, which you tell me is Lilique, so my Antiques Roadshow watching wasn't wasted. Tell me about this fabulous car from the 36, please.
Okay, so it's a Rolls-Royce 2530 from 1936. The coach builder is Park Ward. Okay, so obviously there were lots of back in the day, it was probably about 60 different coach builders.
Wow.
So that's why all the cars look slightly different.
Right.
If that makes sense. The car next to us is a Wallace Arnold bodied car, still a 2530.
The coach builder's Wallace Arnold.
The coach builder is Wallace Arnold, okay, who's still going today.
Yes.
A main dealer who still sells Euro boxes.
Wow, fabulous.
But the Masca is from 1935, so it's period to the car. And again, Sir can have whatever Sir requires. So you could have a kneeling Masca, you could have a standing up Masca, or you can have a Lilique Masca.
Fabulous. And you've had the car a while?
Yeah, so I'm actually a Rolls-Royce and Bentley specialist, and I'm the chairman of the Middlesex section of the RREC, and it was like part of my job to organise. I think we've got about 20 cars here today.
I will shout out to the guys. I'll take a leave. I'll put the details on screen, guys, about that if you're interested in that for sure. I mean, you've had this car a long time. You know these inside out as a specialist.
Yes,
but was it this? But you wanted a 36. You wanted this particular one, or?
So this car actually belonged to an ex-British racing diver called Peter Blonde, and I was his go-to man who looked after his cars. Now Peter has a daughter, but I was like his surrogate son, and he gave me this car 18 years ago, and he said, "Love it, look after it, do whatever you want with it, but if I come down, it's got 4 flat tyres and it don't start, it's covered in dust, I'll take it away from you." Unfortunately, Peter caught COVID and he died, but he was 91. I think when he was 90, he went to the British Grand Prix as the oldest British racing driver. So a very, very, very well-heeled man, very, very lovely chap. And I say he gave both my children went and did their prom in this car, and I said, I have 2 girls. Should Dad buy another car? And they said yes. So hence, and then we've done quite a lot more work on it since, just to get it up into this sort of. In fact, we went to the Rolls-Royce National Rally in June, and it came runner-up to best car in show.
Well, I can quite believe that, guys. I'll cut in some pictures of the car during the video, but thanks for talking to us. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anytime at all.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Good. So Rolls-Royce motor cars were split off from Rolls-Royce Aero in about 1973, and then in 1980, about the time the Silver Spirit was launched, Vickers, the defence company, took ownership, and I think either one of the first or on the cusp of that change was the launch of the Spirit. Now I'm not sure how much of this underneath is related to the Shadow, but certainly it's got that typical styling of the period. We've moved from twin lamps to complete lamps and indicator units, much more squared styling at the corners, I guess. Again, typical of what you'd find. Lovely. There's quite a few of these represented here today, both as Rolls-Royce, we've got Bentleys, and we've also got a succession of earlier cars like this fabulous gold Shadow. That's a beauty. And also this time a 2-door Bentley Continental. That is a particularly pretty car, isn't it? So under the wing of Concorde, no less, a few more Bentleys. This fabulous Bentley Azure convertible. Again, this is the only way to travel, isn't it? What a gorgeous interior. Built in relatively limited numbers, I think. So it's quite appropriate that at Brooklands today we've got a Bentley Brooklands, and this one's a lovely one, isn't it? Absolutely beautiful. Now next to it we've got a really special Silver Cloud, but with the Mulliner Park Ward bodywork, which gives it that unusual front light treatment, as you can see. Really distinctive, these cars. This is the superb drop head. We're going to try and avoid the puddles and have a quick look inside it, because the owner's very helpfully left the top off. There's a beige leather interior that Lloyd Vehicle Consulting would be loving here today. Oh, it's a stunning car, isn't it? What a beauty. So this is a 1969 Daimler 250, so based on the body shell of the Jaguar Mark II, but as a result of the takeover of Daimler by Jaguar, who was seeking production capacity, they inherited this fabulous so-called Turner engine, which was fitted into this vehicle, so completely different to the Mark II Jaguars, and really, really revered as an engine. So it was a truly special car, although to most people the similarity to the Mark II Jaguar is clear, because it's the same body shell and often gets mistaken as such. So you may have seen some of these in my BMC and Leyland show report from the British Motor Museum, so check that one out. But this is a vehicle that's celebrating its 40th birthday in standard form, but this one's a very special MG Maestro, but the turbo, which was built by Tickford. Yes, Tickford of Aston Martin fame. So relatively small numbers. I think these had about 150 brake horsepower, something like that. Turbocharged, that unique, I think that body kit's relatively unique. Certainly I don't think the MG, standard MG, was so aggressively body kitted. So this Fiesta Mark II is the all-important popular Plus. It's a 1.1. I think the Plus got it a rear wash wipe. I had the 950, couldn't quite stretch to 1.1, but in the same colour. This is a Mark II one, but it's a facelifted one, so it's got the partially body coloured bumpers that mine didn't have. You'll see those bumpers painted the same colour as the body. Great to see that here today. Now, from the museum's own collection associated with its aircraft heritage of this BEA Bedford HA van, BEA standing for British European Airways, a predecessor I think to BOAC and then eventually British Airways, but lovely to see this one still operational, displayed at the museum and in its original livery. Now, you're certainly not going to see another one of these here today. It's a Mazda 626, but in actual fact it's the GT derivative with the all-important four-wheel steering. Now this, certainly some manufacturers like Mazda and Honda had a crack with the four-wheel steering, but it never really took off and sold in the numbers they expected, but absolutely lovely to see that here today. So one of the most expensive Hondas you could buy and sold in relatively low numbers as a result is this Honda Legend. I'm not sure by this stage what the relationship was with Rover. I think that had pretty much disappeared. I think it was the earlier car that shared a lot with the Rover 800s. This is a later car. I think there was one more generation to come before Honda finally gave up on this incredible car, incredible levels of equipment on these, but never really did break through against the premium badges. So this is a mid-engined Lotus Europa. Now, the unusual fact with this car, it was designed by a guy called Ron Hickman, who also designed, wait for it, the Black & Decker workmate. So it's a mid-engine car using, I think, originally a 1470cc Renault engine. This one bears that iconic black and gold livery, John Player special livery, and also proudly trumpets the world champion constructors. What a force Lotus were in sports cars and in certainly in Formula One of that period. So this is a fabulous Lotus Europa special. That's lovely, isn't it? So the brilliant W113 Pagoda is celebrating a 60th birthday this year. God, it's difficult to believe that, isn't it? This is absolutely, or was the pinnacle of Mercedes-Benz continuing this SL Sport Light series. I think this probably was the second generation car in the Sport Light series. Absolutely lovely. Gorgeous, isn't it? So the Relight Motor Company, famous for the Scimitars and the three-wheelers, also produced some other sports cars. Now this is the SS that they produced. This subsequently later in life became called the Reliant Sabre. Initially they used the Ford engines, the Ford CVH engines. This is a Ford, just a 1400, but in a relatively lightweight car, the 1600, and I also think that they used the Nissan Silvia turbo engine, which must have really flown. This one is in absolutely beautiful condition. I've seen a lot worse than this, and this one's an absolute credit to its owner. So if you're watching, thumbs up on that one. So you don't see too many of these around, do you? It's a Citroen GS, not GSA, which came later, but the GS Palace. It's got a fabulous vinyl roof. Palace must make it pretty much top of the range. Got those lovely full-size chrome wheel trims, fabulous cloth interior, and it's probably almost as well presented as the one that Hubnut has. What a fabulous car. It's got a body shield stuck in the back, which must mean that's why it survived. It was probably rust treated from new. Fabulous to see that here today. So we reckon the Minis wouldn't have got away quite so much on the Italian job if they were chased by Alfa Giulia Supers, as maybe some of us would have been led to believe. This is in fabulous order. It's got the bumpers removed, sort of pretty racing style car. Left-hand drive, so an import. I'm not sure if these officially came to the UK. I suspect not, because of high purchase tax back in the late 60s, and this car dates from what, 68, 69 I suspect. So replacing the DAF Daffodil, yeah, I didn't make that up, honestly, that's true, is the DAF 33. It has a 746cc flat twin engine with a constantly variable transmission. They were sold in the UK. This is a right-hand drive car. It's an M, so that would make it a 74. Rare to see one of these days. I absolutely love that glorious green colour. Doesn't that make it a little treat? It's brilliant. Absolutely great to see that here today. And that's a brand from the car world that's gone. DAF was taken over by Volvo, who bought their car division and got their new small car design, which became the 340 360 series. So Bob, we've had a quick walk round on the channel of this fabulous DAF 33. It's a UK car. Tell me about it, because it's attracting all the attention, not just the colour. How long have you had it?
Well, I've had it about 18 months. I got it from a friend of mine that does DAFs from Peterborough, and really it's in more or less original condition.
Wow.
I'm not sure if it's been resprayed or not. I think it might have been, but that's about it really.
Oh, and
Yeah.
What's the connection with DAF? Why you wanted particularly a DAF 33 or a DAF?
Because they look cute.
They do, don't they?
They do, yeah.
I mean, the predecessor, I think I read, was the DAF Daffodil. I thought somebody
That's
made that
right.
up. And
No,
they
DAF
sort of,
Daffodil is correct.
fantastic.
It's the one before this, and then the 33, and there's another one over there. I think that's a 44 or 55.
Yeah, and do you go far in it? Do you travel far?
Not doing too bad. It's been off the road for a couple of months because I had some problems, oil leak problems.
Right.
What they usually do is, because it's an air-cooled engine, it's sort of like half a VW Beetle.
And what's it like driving one of these day to day in sort of 2023?
Well, it's quite all right for normal use, for city use, that sort of thing.
And it's handy being an auto as well, isn't it? Of course.
Well, yeah, it is, yeah. Variomatic, it's continuously variable ratios,
Oh, fabulous.
and it's actually controlled by engine vacuum as well as centrifugal force. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, thank you for talking to us about it,
Yeah.
Bob. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So here's a rare one, a 1968 Peugeot 404. So this was continued in production in overseas markets long after it finished, and probably you'll still see some of these running about in parts of Africa still today. They are incredibly durable. Now, if you look at the styling, does it remind you of anything? Does it remind you of any BMC cars? Well, in actual fact, the styling house responsible is, wait for it, Pininfarina. So you can see that Pininfarina's reused elements of that design all over. This is lovely condition. Looks like it's a UK car because it's right-hand drive. It's got the original looking number plates on anyway, the embossed aluminium number plates. It's great to see those here today, isn't it? The owner's a member of the Peugeot Club. There must be relatively few of these about. I think the car itself has something like 86 horsepower, which in fairness, back in 1968 is a reasonable amount of power. As I mentioned, if we look round at the back, you can see here, that's pure BMC Farina at the back, isn't it, if you look at those? Wow, what a rare car to see that. So this, to the untrained eye, is a Volvo 850 estate. That's true, but P26LLU is about the most famous Volvo 850 estate you're going to find. Yes, it is the original car used by Smithy on Gavin and Stacey. So it's probably had a few takeaway curries on the passenger seat. It's in pretty good order. It's got the original pipe rack on the roof. It's got the Smithies, if your husband won't do it, I will. Tiling, roofing, plastering and feng shui. It's exactly original. So the film company, production company, have taken it back and used it in the Christmas special a few years ago, and the owners kept it exactly as it was used. Absolutely fabulous. So let's take a chat with the let's have a chat with the owner and find out exactly how he came to own this fabulous iconic car. So I'm going to talk to David about the actual car, Smithy's car from Gabbard and Stacey. Now, this isn't a replica, it's the actual car. Now, tell us the story, because did you know the history, but did you buy it like this?
Yeah, I bought it like this, so I knew it was the car, but it hadn't been on the telly for about 9 years at the time.
Right.
So they'd just done Series 3, they hadn't done the Christmas special at the time.
Wow. And did they borrowed the car back from you, I think, have they?
They did, yeah, they borrowed it back for the Christmas special in 2019.
So what made you buy it? Your connection with the series, you know, you like the series, you like the car. I mean, that's quite an unusual left field buy, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it was unique. Well, I bought it originally just because it was a Volvo estate and we needed a bigger car when we were moving.
Wow.
And obviously looking through the classifieds for the classic cars, saw Smithy's Volvo and thought, well.
And the film crew, they kept it in good order, the production company?
It's in really good condition, you know, it's a 1996 car, 157,000 miles, so it's for, even for a Volvo like that, it's in good condition.
I can imagine. And a few takeaways spilt on the passenger seat with
exactly. A few Lambooners.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah, first time I've seen it at a show, you take it to a few shows, or? Yeah,
we do. I mean, we live up the road, so Brooklands is just literally just around the corner, so we take it to a few shows. Some people sort of understand it, some people don't. So I put these sort of photos of it during filming on the dashboard so that they can see what it is.
Oh, that's absolutely fabulous. Well, I saw somebody done a recreation, and my immediate thought was that was the car, but clearly not. We're in royal company today. So thanks for talking to us about it. It's a fabulous car, and we'll cut in some shots of the car as well. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you. Cheers. That's great. So Roy Haynes, the Ford designer who was subsequently poached by BMC, designed this squared off Mark II Cortina to replace the much softer Mark I. Now this was top of the tree, so this sort of 68, 69 car is the 1600E, which I think picked up the sportier suspension but with quite a plush interior, those rose style Rubery Owen wheels, the fabulous wood interior, and also the vinyl roof. That's lovely, isn't it? So by the early 70s, the E-Type was already a very old car and had a facelift which transformed it into the Mark III, using the V12 engines and a slightly extended body shell. End of production was only a few years away. This looks like it's a 71 in a lovely condition. It's the 2+2, more practical. And I think the colour on this one just makes it look really, really special, doesn't it? See a lot of E-Types, but certainly not so many in that shade of grey, I think. So this 1962 Bedford J-Type was found in Southampton, I think in 2005, and underwent a very extensive restoration. The owner then bought it, I think in 2018, from the Bangers and Cash auction, or the Matthewson's auction, and it's now available for weddings and other functions. What a fabulous looking truck that is, isn't it? So this is unusual. It's a 1978 Daihatsu F20. I think we may have got these in the UK. I'm not sure. This one's imported. It's a left-hand drive car. It's got certainly some nice features. Those half doors, great on a day like today when it's not raining, hopefully. That fabulous body coloured dashboard, obviously the low range gears, access to the low range gear, plenty of room in the back as well, so you've got another 4 people could sit in the back. I'm not sure how far you take them in comfort, but what a fabulous car. Great to see that here today, and you're not going to see too many of these, are you, for sure. So this Mark II Cortina is a H, what would that make it, 69, 70, maybe 1970, and it certainly looks like one of the Crayford convertibles. It's amazing how popular converting tin top saloon cars to open top cars were back in the day, and what a successful business that Crayford actually had doing that. This has got full tonneau cover. The owner's not taking any chances because it has been raining a little bit on and off here today, but great to see that. So this Vauxhall Velox really shows the GM ownership, the American style and influence. You've just got to look at it from the front and it looks like very much a scaled down American car of the period, with that fabulous overrider grille combination there. Really has those styling features of the American cars of the period, doesn't it? Right the way down to the back, and look at some of the feature details on there. Okay, it's got the white wall tyres, but look at the rear lights, and we've got the rear light lens, but we've got that chrome reflector and that pattern continuing somewhat into the body itself. What a great car. So this is a car that would eventually spawn the AC Cobra. It's the Ace. The Acea was the fixed head version, I believe. Some of these had Bristol engines. That engine was based on a BMW design, confusingly enough. This one hasn't by the look of it, but what a fabulous looking AC Ace. So this fabulous Mini Moke is a recreation of the one used, or the ones used, on The Prisoner, the famous 60s TV show with Patrick McGowan that was an absolutely cult show back in the 60s. The owners recreated it with a hood and the correct seats and a couple of little monkeys in there as well. And it certainly gets a lot of attention. Well, I can imagine it does. The original car sold, I think he was telling me, for serious amounts of money recently, but this one's a superb recreation, isn't it? So this is a 1956 Series 5 Lancia Aurelia. Isn't it one of the most pretty cars Lancia ever made? What a stunning car. Very pretty, quite quick in its day. I think 120 mile an hour top speed. And in actual fact, hugely technical advance for the time. So I'm going to have a chat with the owner about it in a second, who's invited me to sit in the car and speak to him about it. So let's do that next. So we're here with Ian, who's this owner of this fabulous Lancia Aurelia. I've admired the style of these cars, are so pretty and so well engineered, but tell us about the Aurelias like this one, because they're really special cars, aren't they?
Yes, well, I bought it in 1961.
Wow.
1981, sorry.
1981, okay, yeah, still.
Yeah, and it was all right. It was runnable, but only just. So since then I've had to do a lot to it. So I went to Italy. I go to Italy a lot. I took it down to Italy about 1990.
Okay.
And we took the engine out and took the engine apart.
Wow.
The chap has an engine down there, and found it was really quite good. 1 or 2 parts were missing, but made sure it worked and put it together again. And then later on, about 7 years ago, I went down to Italy with it, and I found some people who did a lot of work on metal work, and they took all the paint off to find all the rust.
And what's the appeal with the Aurelia? Because
Well,
it is a pretty car, but it's clever,
It's
isn't
a clever engine. It's a 6-cylinder engine.
Right.
It's a V6 with 2 camshafts.
Okay.
It's gear driven, and I think this is belt driven. I think it's belt driven.
Right.
And two Weber carburetors. Well,
Okay.
they look like one, but they are 2 carburetors. And each set of 3 cylinders has its own ignition system. So when it's running, it's really running like 3-cylinder engines running.
Right.
And you've got to match the 2 up together.
So there's quite,
So
in terms of tuning these correctly, you need to know what
yes.
you're doing, I guess.
But
yeah.
now you can cheat and buy electronic ignition,
Okay.
which does it for you.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it makes a hell of a difference. Yeah.
And what about performance-wise, keeping up with modern traffic? Because this is from 50.
Oh yes. I mean, the fact is, if you go up to 2,500 RPM, you can just go along with all the traffic. But above 2,500 to 5,000, it really pulls.
Right.
And I've taken around Goodwood, and on straight there did 104 miles an hour.
Oh wow. Okay, so it can certainly
quite
pick up
easy.
its skirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fabulous car.
I mean, originally it was a 120 mile an hour car, so
Really?
it probably would do that if you had time to. But of course,
to
you
get it there.
remember you've got drum brakes. And the other feature of the car, it's got the engine in the front and the back, and the axle, and the
Gearbox,
gearbox at the back,
transaxle.
at the back.
Transaxle.
Yeah, and the
Okay.
gearbox is at the back.
So weight distribution wise, pretty good weight
It's good,
distribution
yeah,
then.
that's right.
Oh,
And
excellent.
it's all drum brakes, so when you're going fast, and particularly on the motorway, you've got to keep well behind people because your brakes aren't anything like modern brakes.
Do people convert these to discs then, or is that sort
I
of
haven't
not
heard
done?
of that. I haven't heard that. Yeah,
Right.
I haven't heard that. Well, that'd be sacrilege, wouldn't it?
It would a little bit, really,
Yeah.
because
No,
it
I
wasn't
mean,
designed like that.
The fact is, and I had we relined the drum brakes and put them all up. They're very clever because they're inside the drum. When you push the brake on, the pad has to go against the drum, and it's got a little suction. Well, not a suction thing. At the pressure of the rotation of the wheel, actually assists you.
Okay.
So it's sort of brake assisted inside the drum.
Okay, wow.
Which is clever.
It is some clever features like Lancia have got, haven't they? Oh well.
But I mean, it is.
Thank you.
It's a clever car, and of course the axle, the drive shaft is from the back to the front, so that's revving all the time.
Right.
At the engine rev. So when you're driving at 4,000 RPM, which is about 90.
It's a bit noisy. We're permissible.
Well, you know you're swearing below you. You know you're sitting on a bit of a machinery.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh, well, thank you for talking to us about
Anyway,
it.
look,
Really appreciate
it was very
it.
nice to meet you.
Yes, thank
What
you
was
very
your
much.
name, actually?
Simon.
Simon.
So I think Roy Haynes also had a crack at redesigning the Mini, and this is what they came up with. They added this front end onto the Mini, and I think the idea was eventually it would replace the Mini that we all know and love, but in actual fact it didn't. So this was the Mini Clubman, and this is the 1275cc version. Next to it is also another 1275cc car. Fabulous to see these here today. There's one, red one, and this one, what's this, probably Oxford blue, I'm not quite sure. So I think launched in 80 or 81 was the Audi Quattro, originally in 10 valve form, later 20 valve. This is a later car. It's an 86 car, so has some styling changes in terms of the front lamps, but this is the car that started it off with Audi in rallying and made Quattro such a successful sub-brand for them. Now this very subtly modified car, certainly from the outside, is a lovely Plymouth Suburban. I'm not a massive fan of customised cars, but honestly the way this one's been done is an absolute credit to its owner. It's in super order. Love the colour, and you've got some practicality. I'm guessing that car's from what, probably the late 50s, I guess. I'll put that in the comments if you know different or you're the owner. So a Fulvia Zagato, just like the one that Harry Metcalf has restored to a great degree. Love the combination of red paint with the gold wheels on that one. Great that Fulvia base vehicle could actually be reshelled into something looking like that. Both are attractive, but in different ways. Now that bonnet mascot, what does that belong to? Well, in actual fact it belongs to a 2000 Royal Sabre. Part aluminium, part fiberglass, specially sports car with a 2.4 litre engine. I don't think I've ever seen one of these before. I might have heard of them. It's been exhibited at the Goodwood Road Racing Club in the past, and you can be assured it's the only one here at Brooklands today. So the Roots Group really knew what to do when they wanted to add more power to the Alpine model. And in actual fact they bought a US model and installed a Ford engine in, and that Ford engine gave the basis of an incredibly powerful but understated Alpine Tiger. Now that deal fell apart when Chrysler took ownership of the Roots Group, and unfortunately, you know, Ford buying Chrysler buying engines from Ford really wasn't the done thing. But fabulous to see that here, and it's really quite understated to say that it's a Tiger model. So thanks again for joining me on Lot 76 Cars at the Summer Classic event at Brooklands. Hope you've enjoyed the cars we've seen, the owner interviews we've had. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications so as not to miss my next video, and look forward to you joining me on the next one. Thanks for watching.